Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we've pulled together an extraordinary collection of source material, custom-tailored for you, that focuses on the unsettling convergence of, well, global organized crime, cutting-edge space technology, and espionage that relies entirely on a 14-year-old agent.
It's a wild combination.
It really is.
Yeah.
And this isn't just an adventure, it's a terrifying global plot that starts with a whimper and ends with a potential planetary catastrophe.
Exactly. Our mission today is to analyze the sixth major adventure of Alex Rider. And what the sources reveal is this narrative tactic where the author, Anthony Horowitz, tracks Alex's recovery from a nearly fatal sniper injury.
An injury he got working for them.
Of course. And he immediately throws him into a labyrinth involving an immensely wealthy, seemingly legitimate billionaire and a secret, terrifying space project named Ark Angel. It's the definition of jumping from the frying pan into the fire.
And it sets up this ticking clock that we've seen referenced throughout the series. The sources note that the author hinted that Alex would reach his 15th birthday at the point of the last book. That timeline is closing in. And with every mission, the physical and psychological toll on him just becomes exponentially greater.
Well, we need to unpack three major overlapping themes today. First, you have the core conflict, the chilling extremist ideology of a brand new eco-terrorist group called Force 3, which seems to just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
Second, the sheer megalomania of this new class of global criminal, the kingpin, who uses legitimate business, even space tourism, as a cover. And finally, the complex, almost negligent relationship Alex has with MI6 and the CIA, where his disposability is, simultaneously his greatest asset.
The sources immediately establish the high stakes by beginning with a high-profile assassination. So we move from the quiet aftermath of a sniper attack on a teenage boy, and we plunge right into the ruthless world of international security, where the very act of speaking out can get you killed.
The victim is Max Weber, and the irony surrounding his death is absolutely theatrical.
What about something else?
Weber was a career security expert, short and plump, with those signature tortoiseshell glasses and dyed jet black hair. The man literally wrote the book on protection, looking after number one, 50 ways to protect yourself at home and abroad.
And that book sold 20,000 copies in America. He was a man who specialized in paranoia, advising wealthy businessmen. His credibility came in part from his past as a former SI's member, though the sources make sure to mention he was dropped after his very first tour of duty.
Yeah, that's a small detail that speaks volumes, doesn't it, about his professional hubris? He was literally killed minutes after finishing a lecture on avoiding becoming a target.
And the lecture focused on a new organization, Force 3. The name itself is the first clue into their extreme mindset, right?
It is. It's derived from the fact that Earth is the third planet from the sun. It's an immediate signal that their loyalty is, interplanetary, not human.
They position themselves carefully. They reject the term terrorist, insisting they are eco-warriors. Their manifesto addresses these highly visible global issues: rainforests, nuclear power, genetic engineering, multinational business expansion, and of course, climate change.
So it gives them this thin layer of social acceptability, which Weber was so keen to strip away.
Right.
Weber emphasized the fundamental, terrifying difference between Force 3 and legitimate activist groups like Greenpeace. He told the audience, Force 3 are fanatics, their ideology is absolute.
He said they will kill anyone who gets in their way. They have already killed many times.
Exactly. They claim to respect the planet, but they demonstrate zero respect for human life. And that is the crucial distinction. They see human beings, particularly global business leaders, as the disease the planet must cure itself of.
And the personification of this ruthless fanaticism is their commanding officer, Kaspar. The description of this man isn't just unique, it's designed to be terrifyingly symbolic. He has a completely shaven head, including his eyebrows, which immediately makes him look unnatural.
But then you get the chilling detail of the map. He has a detailed world map tattooed onto his skin. We are told quite specifically that England and France cover his left eye, Newfoundland pokes out over his right, and Argentina wraps around his neck.
It isn't just a tattoo, it's a statement.
It's a whole identity. He literally carries the weight of the planet, the thing he supposedly fights for, on his physical being, defining himself entirely by global geography.
And his track record speaks to his dedication. In just the last 6 months, his known offenses are staggering. the assassination of a critical Berlin journalist, Marjorie Schultz, the kidnapping and murder of 2 members of the Atomic Energy Commission in Toronto.
And organizing explosions in 6 countries, spanning from Japan to New Zealand, culminating in the destruction of a massive car manufacturing plant in Dakota.
Unbelievable.
And we are explicitly told that he enjoys his work, often preferring to press the button himself. This is a man who derives perverse satisfaction from chaos.
What makes this introduction so alarming from a security perspective is the immediate admission of MI6's complete ignorance. Alan Blunt, the short, entirely gray head of MI6, and Mrs. Jones were actually in the audience.
Right, they were there, and they admitted to each other that 6 months ago, Force 3 didn't even exist, and they knew virtually nothing about their operations or funding. They are caught completely flat-footed by this new, spectacular threat.
And that desperation led to Weber's fatal mistake. Blunt and Mrs. Jones approached him, hoping to leverage his sources. Weber, puffed up by his own self-importance, refused to reveal anything, mocking the intelligence services for their lack of foresight.
He was so arrogant, so satisfied with himself that he missed the most basic security threat.
He left the conference center at 3 p.m. He spent 90 seconds retrieving his mobile phone from the cloakroom, a measure he recommended in his own book as a security buffer, and decided to walk home.
And his rationale was it was safer to be out in the open on your own 2 feet. He believed his own legend.
He really did. The sources reveal a meticulous level of planning. The bomb was timed for exactly 3:30 p.m. At 3:29 p.m., the phone rang.
And it was the soft, artificial voice of the man who had paid him £250,000 to give the lecture. Weber blustered, but the voice simply delivered the final line. "Goodbye, Mr. Weber." The bomb, concealed within the phone, exploded instantly.
It's a calculated, ruthless, and highly publicized execution designed to establish Force 3 as a non-negotiable global threat capable of hitting anyone, anywhere.
The violence on the ground was ruthless, but it was just a prelude to the geopolitical threat. So moving from that spectacular assassination, we shift back to Alex Rider, recovering in the clinical quiet of St. Dominic's Hospital.
He's only 14, and he has just survived a professional sniper attack, shot by a .22 rifle from almost 75 meters away outside MI6 headquarters.
It truly defies belief that he lived. The sniper was aiming for his heart. Alex's survival was contingent on sheer luck, the fraction of a second when he stepped off the pavement, causing the bullet to ricochet off a rib. That tiny shift spared his heart, but the bullet still tore violently through his subclavian artery.
And this is where the medical details are surprisingly important to the narrative. Doctors couldn't fully explain it, but his youth was key.
Right. If Alex had been an adult, the severed subclavian artery would have resulted in rapid shock and hemorrhage. But the body of a young person, the sources explain, can sometimes automatically shut down the artery to limit blood loss.
And that bought him 2.5 hours of intense surgery.
But the damage was not resolved with the surgery. The bullet inflicted severe trauma to his brachial plexus, that complicated network of nerves that controls the movement and sensation of his entire left arm.
So he was left with pain, stiffness, and pins and needles, potentially permanent, despite days of intensive physiotherapy focused on static resistance and speed work. The sources want us to remember that beneath the teenage facade, he's a damaged agent.
The psychological weight on him is immense, compounded by the bizarre collection of visitors and well-wishers. He gets cards from normal people, his friends like Tom Harris and Sabina Pleasure, who's now in San Francisco.
But then you have the tokens from the spy world. Blunt, Mrs. Jones, and Smithers, who sent that classic talking teddy bear card. Even the Prime Minister's office sent an impersonal printed card.
Yeah. And when Mrs. Jones visits, the gravity of MI6's actions really hits home. She calls the shooting an unforgivable lapse of security and openly expresses her guilt over involving him, mentioning Scorpia and his father.
Yet, in a major tactical blunder, she later decided that Scorpia was no longer an immediate threat, and the armed guards, Alex's only protection, were quietly withdrawn.
A decision which guarantees his immediate peril.
Absolutely. While recovering, Alex encounters Paul Drevin, the only other teenager in the corridor. Paul, also 14, recovering from appendicitis, is a mirror image of Alex in terms of social isolation.
He has short blonde hair, light blue eyes, and a Russian-tinged accent. He's lonely. He doesn't attend school because his life is weird due to his father, Nikolei Drevin.
Alex notices the profound sadness of this isolation. Paul's father is clearly rich, capable of spending thousands on Paul's private care, but completely incapable of spending time to visit him.
It sets up the central theme. The emotional void created by extreme transactional wealth.
That sad quiet is violently broken at 1:00 a.m.
Oh.
Alex, restless, is taking a walk when four fit, aggressive men enter the deserted foyer. The leader, wearing a combat jacket and a Che Guevara t-shirt, demands to see Paul Drevin in room 8.
When Connor, the receptionist, bravely refuses, the leader executes him instantly with a silenced gun.
Alex heard that terrifying, angry cough of the bullet and saw the black spray on Connor's forehead. It's cold-blooded murder committed simply because the victim followed the rules.
This confirms Weber's assessment. These are fanatics with zero respect for human life.
Alex's training immediately takes over. He realizes a fire alarm is useless. The men will reach Paul before help arrives. His only advantage is speed and his intimate knowledge of the outdated facility.
Right. He calculates that the original 20-year-old bed lifts are very, very slow, taking almost 2 minutes to reach the second floor. That precious 1 minute and 40 seconds head start is all he has to save himself and Paul.
The clock is ticking, and Alex has to move faster than his healing body allows. He races to the second floor, quickly changes out of his pajamas, and executes the most critical part of his plan.
He swaps the plastic door strips, switching his name and room number, room 9, Alex Ryder, with Paul's roommate, Paul Drevin. It's a desperate act of deception.
The four men emerge, confused by the deserted corridor. The sources give them descriptive names, reflecting Alex's immediate, almost clinical assessment under pressure: combat jacket, spectacles, steel watch, and silver tooth.
And Alex walks out, pretending to be startled, allowing Combat Jacket to immediately jump to the wrong conclusion, that he has found Paul Drevin.
The moment Combat Jacket draws his gun, Alex runs. And this is where the analysis of the author's narrative technique really pays off. Alex's survival is not dependent on a smoke bomb from Smithers, but on the immediate application of mundane knowledge and environmental mastery.
Exactly. He leads them away from the pediatric ward, through the service corridor, and into the physiotherapy department.
He uses the environment as his weapon. First, he combines water and electricity. A spilled drinks trolley and a 3-bar electric fire tossed into the water create an instant short circuit, electrocuting spectacles and Silvertooth as they rush across the wet floor.
We hear that terrible sizzle. The opposition is halved in an instant.
Next, pure physical power, despite his injury. He uses a heavy 10-kilogram oxygen cylinder, just the size and weight he needs to strike steel watch, taking him out of the fight.
He's running past his fresh surgical wound, but his stitches miraculously hold. In the darkened gym area, he uses the element of surprise against the leader, Combat Jacket, who enters with a Hungarian FP9 handgun.
Alex uses a large, heavy medicine ball, a common piece of gym equipment, hurling it out of the shadows. It hits the leader square in the stomach, knocking him unconscious against the wall.
3 down. But this is where the physics lesson becomes lethal.
Steel Watch, recovering quickly, chases Alex to the ground floor and the magnetum room. Alex knows the warning signs. Remove all metal.
Right, the MRI machine.
Huh.
It uses a powerful 1.5 Tesla magnetic field to scan soft tissue. This is a crucial detail that turns a piece of medical technology into a deadly weapon.
Steel Watch, blinded by rage and focusing only on his target, fails to recognize the danger. The sources describe the missile effect.
The immense magnetic power instantly tears the gun away, dislocating his fingers, and then fatally, the man himself is violently hurled by the magnetic drag created by his heavy steel watch, smashing him into the MRI machine.
The application of high school physics triumphs over superior firepower. It's a profound shift in how the author frames the spy hero. Alex's greatest advantage isn't gadgets or brute strength, but his ability to weaponize knowledge and the common objects around him.
True. But that said, his successful defense only delayed the inevitable. After calling the police and verifying Connor's death, Alex was blindsided, knocked out with a tranquilizer dart.
He wakes up barefoot and shivering in a derelict high-rise flat known as Hornchurch Towers. He realizes the horrifying truth. He was accidentally kidnapped, mistaken for Paul Drevin.
And here he meets his captor, the man with the world map tattoos, who formally introduces himself. My name is Kaspar.
Kaspar confirms Force 3's motivation, framing it as an ideological struggle against the wealthy elite. He mistakenly accuses Alex of being the son of Nikolei Drevin, the oil magnate who scarred 3 continents with pipelines and was now damaging space, even using apes and chimpanzees in test flights.
So he declares Drevin an enemy of mankind and a legitimate target of Force 3.
And the ransom is grotesque. Kaspar intends to send Drevin a more persuasive message than a photograph. He plans to cut off Alex's finger with a 15-centimeter serrated knife to secure a £1 million ransom.
This is the moment where Alex realizes the true, visceral nature of his predicament.
But Alex, demonstrating that crucial ability to think under pressure, uses his injury to his advantage. He reveals his chest bandages, claiming the bullet wound was a cycling accident, proving he didn't have appendicitis like Paul.
He insists he is not the target. Kaspar, recognizing a logistical error, orders Alex back to his room to verify the identity, a tiny window of opportunity based purely on a medical alibi.
8 hours later, Alex is locked in a room, handed a 2-day expired sandwich. He realizes the fundamental hypocrisy of Force 3.
Right. Kaspar's rhetoric about saving the environment doesn't match their actions. They are thugs and common criminals who murdered a civilian receptionist for no reason.
And the situation escalates from kidnapping to execution. Combat Jacket, still smarting from the humiliation of the medicine ball, refuses to follow Kaspar's original orders to release the boy.
He spits at Alex, walked out, nails the door shut, and sets fire to the tower block, leaving Alex trapped in what would quickly become the world's biggest funeral pyre.
It is an act of pure, petty, vindictive revenge that reveals the instability within the terrorist cell itself.
Alex, trapped, tries the wall plaster and hardboard, too solid. He focuses on the ceiling tiles, recalling the tangled wires and pipes above the corridor.
Standing on a chair, he punches through the tiles, pulls himself up onto an old water pipe, and drags himself through the confined crawl space, ignoring the agonizing pain in his chest stitches and the cobwebs.
He drops down 4 meters into the corridor on the other side of the locked room. But the fire is advancing quickly. The block is going up like a torch. The descent is blocked by rushing flames and a collapsing ceiling on the 2nd floor.
So his only option is up, 15 stories to the roof.
Reaching the hot tarmac roof, he finds the exit point is already engulfed in a whirlwind of flames and smoke. He is cornered, facing death by fire, when he spots his absurd salvation. A single heavy-duty cable stretching half a mile to the next building.
This is a fantastic example of the author relying on esoteric knowledge. Alex's survival hinges on a specific memory, a visit to a Vienna circus 6 years earlier with his Uncle Ian.
Uncle Ian, the ultimate unconventional spy mentor who had taught him about funambulism, the physics of tightrope walking.
The funambulism lesson is fascinating. Ian explained that a long pole doesn't just help balance. It increases rotational inertia, making it significantly harder to fall.
But the true secret to mastering the tightrope, making it almost impossible to lose your balance, is adding enough weight to the ends of the pole. This shifts the center of gravity below the wire.
Alex, facing a fiery death, turns himself into a human physics experiment. He grabs a 6-meter plastic pipe. For weights, he uses 2 steel buckets, half filled with dried, solidified cement, weighing them equally by sight.
And crucially, he attaches them to the ends of the pipe using the very bandages he tears off his recovering, recently grafted artery wound. The material meant to protect him now forms the mechanism of his escape.
He begins the crossing on the cable, which is only about 2 centimeters thick. Halfway across, sirens below distract him, causing a moment of panic, but the weights counteract the inevitable wobble.
Then the tower erupts. A fireball tears through the tarmac, and the metal stanchion holding the cable begins to pull loose.
He knows the end is coming. Alex runs, treating the pole like a sprinter's tool. With a terrifying cry, the cable snaps. He throws himself forward, narrowly missing the roof of the adjacent building, but becomes tangled in the banner attached near the anchor point, crashing into the wall, feet dangling in space.
He survived the biggest funeral pyre thanks to a circus lesson and his quick thinking. The psychological drama of this escape reinforces the fact that Alex is constantly walking a tightrope between life and death.
After that harrowing, fiery escape, Alex is rushed back to St. Dominic's. Dr. Hayward, acting like the classic long-suffering headmaster, issues a strict mandate. 2 weeks of rest and recuperation and absolutely no return to school, given the major surgery and severe risk of infection.
The authorities want him grounded.
But the espionage world has other ideas. Mrs. Jones is in Berlin investigating Weber's death, so the MI6 debrief is handled by John Crawley.
Crawley is described as wearing a nasty blue blazer with a crest on the pocket from the Royal Tunbridge Wells Golf and Croquet Club, a sign of the bureaucracy and privilege that often masks the brutality of the espionage world.
Crawley, trying to bond with a teenage agent, reveals he worked with Alex's father, Ian Ryder, in the field until Ian was hurt. He confirms Alex is just like him, an attempt at complementing his talent, but a heavy reminder of the fate of his father.
And Crawley provides the official profile of their new target, Nikolei Drevin, a multi-billionaire, a term Crawley insists on, emphasizing the scale of his wealth.
Drevin owns Stratford East Football Club, a huge Oxfordshire estate called Neverglade, and his own Caribbean island, Flamingo Bay. He's the epitome of the new global elite.
Drevin's venture that has captured MI6's attention is the Ark Angel project. It's supposed to be a space hotel constructed piece by piece in orbit. Critically, the British government is a partner, positioning the UK to dominate the burgeoning commercial space tourism market, which is already a reality with businessmen paying upwards of $20 million per trip. This makes the project a matter of international, political, and financial interest.
Crawley acknowledges that Force 3 is a genuine new threat, confirmed to be eco-terrorists linked to high-profile deaths. Their major concern is that Force 3 might target Ark Angel, which seems audacious given it's 300 miles up in outer space.
Yeah, the global stakes are rising quickly.
Despite the gravity of the situation, Alex tries to reclaim his life. He reflects on his time as an agent, the manipulation, the violence, the constant danger, and makes the internal decision.
Yeah.
He's done. He wants a normal life.
And this is a crucial internal conflict. His guardian, Jack Starbright, confesses her profound fear and feeling of being useless, but Alex persuades her to stay, arguing that he only feels normal when she is there. She is his only anchor to reality.
That plan for normalcy lasts about 20 minutes. Alex and Jack meet Nikolei Drevin at the waterfront hotel. Alex, the keen observer, immediately notes that for all his billions, Drevin is profoundly unimpressive.
Small, watery gray eyes, fading fair hair, bad skin, and expensive clothes with absolutely no style. He's an ordinary man masking an extraordinary appetite for power.
At a press conference, Drevin announces that Ark Angel is $300 million over budget and 2 months behind schedule. But he projects confidence, predicting it will launch the greatest adventure of our lifetime.
And he uses the platform to publicly denounce Force 3 as common criminals who tried to extort money from him. He also very casually drops the detail that the CIA is investigating his affairs, but insists he has nothing to hide.
Drevin offers a truly grand gesture to Alex, announcing a £2 million donation to St. Dominic's new cardiology wing in Alex's name. Then comes the proposition, cloaked in concern.
Since the doctors ordered rest, Alex should stay with Drevin and Paul as a guest first at Neverglade, then New York, and finally Flamingo Bay. Alex agrees, despite the obvious conflict of interest, being a Chelsea supporter going to stay with the owner of rival Stratford East.
But the agent in Alex immediately spots the discrepancy, the tiny crack in Drevin's highly polished facade. Drevin claimed Paul was always in danger and thus secluded. Yet when the kidnappers broke into St. Dominic's, there hadn't been a single guard in sight. This suggests Drevin was either extremely negligent or, far more likely, that the kidnapping itself was not a genuine threat, but a manufactured event.
Alex is immediately immersed in the kind of luxury that insulates Drevin from the real world. Rolls-Royce, pools, private cinema, go-karts, jet skis. Yet Paul remains lonely.
And Alex observes Drevin treating his son with this subtle, corrosive contempt, questioning why Paul wouldn't choose more adventurous activities than a simple walk. Drevin is incapable of understanding anything that isn't high risk or high value.
Alex, maintaining his tradecraft, trespasses into Drevin's private study, a massive space dominated by a crescent moon-shaped glass and steel desk. The gallery wall is the true window into Drevin's soul.
It's not a business monument, it's a monument to ego. It's filled with photos alongside political heavyweights like the Queen, Nelson Mandela, the U.S. president, and significantly, Russian President Boris Kirienko, a man Alex knows to be a dangerous contact.
The photos, spanning from Hollywood stars like Tom Cruise to global leaders, signal that Drevin is driven not just by money, but by an unquenchable thirst for external validation and power. He wants to be seen not just as rich, but as globally relevant.
That psychological insight quickly manifests as physical violence. Drevin challenges Alex to a go-kart race on his private track. These are not toys, they are high-powered carts capable of 100-mile-per-hour, deliberately designed as lethal with no wraparound bumpers.
Drevin immediately reveals his sociopathic competitive streak. He cheats repeatedly, dangerously bumping Alex from behind at 70 miles per hour and trying to force him into the rubber tire wall on a raised bridge to secure a win.
Drevin is truly a man who cannot stand to lose. Alex only wins by deliberately crashing through the tire wall to cut the corner. Drevin is left furious, storming off, cementing Alex's view that he's a dangerous, bad loser.
And this pettiness soon translates to brutal murder. They attend a Stratford East versus Chelsea match. Stratford East loses 2-1, but the turning point is in the final minutes when the captain, Adam Wright, a $24 million blast star, misses a fluke penalty, sending the ball yards over the crossbar.
Drevin, his face colorless, immediately uses his mobile phone, speaking briefly, intensely in Russian.
Alex spots Silvertooth, one of the hospital kidnappers, on the edge of the pitch, retrieving something. Alex follows Silvertooth, combat jacket, and spectacles to the visiting team's changing room.
And the henchman present right with a thank you present, a gold medallion. This whole sequence is an astonishing display of untraceable, calculated revenge for a minor financial loss, the loss of the football game.
The mechanism of death is brilliantly horrifying and designed to look like a terrible accident. The medallion was made of cesium.
Right, for the non-chemist, cesium is an alkali metal in group 1, meaning it is incredibly volatile.
Contact with water causes an immediate, explosive, and violent reaction. The medallion was protected only by a thin layer of wax, which instantly melted in the hot shower, vaporizing the striker. The hit was instant, untraceable, and devastating.
Drevin's control over Alex ends in New York. En route on Drevin's private 747, Alex decides he has to leave. The invisible net is closing in, and he suspects Drevin ordered the murder.
But at JFK, a customs agent declares Alex's 10-year-old passport expired 2 days earlier. Drevin, feigning annoyance, leaves Alex to be held overnight.
This is the CIA's brilliant play. Alex is immediately driven away in a limo by Special Agent Shulsky. Their destination is Manhattan's Creative Ideas Animation, a fake art gallery selling Simpsons cells, the perfect, innocuous front for the CIA.
CIA Deputy Director for Operations Joe Byrne confirms they swapped Alex's passport to extract him without alerting Drevin. Then he delivers the bombshell. Nikolei Drevin is not just a rich man or a bad loser, he is the biggest criminal in the world.
Byrne finally lays out Drevin's true origin story, which is essential to understanding his current megalomania. Drevin is a former KGB agent, having served in the army.
After the breakup of the Soviet Union, he leveraged his contacts and partnered with global organized crime, the Russian mafia, Japanese yakuza, and Chinese triads to acquire the $80 million loan necessary to buy a controlling interest in the Russian oil company Novgorod.
So his entire fortune is built on a foundation of international crime syndicates.
And the CIA and the State Department have been working for 18 months, building an airtight case, storing over 2,000 documents and recordings at the Pentagon. They plan to arrest Drevin 1 week from that day.
MI6 knows, but they are reluctant to cooperate due to the political scandal that would erupt over the UK's partnership in Ark Angel.
So the CIA needs Alex. They need him to go to Flamingo Bay to find out if Drevin is preparing to cut and run before the arrest. He is needed because, ironically, he is the only person close to the family, the only civilian asset, that Drevin doesn't yet suspect is a full-time operative.
The ethics of sending a teenager back into the orbit of a man who just ordered a murder are shocking. But the geopolitical stakes are too high for the CIA to care.
MI6 does provide crucial support via the quartermaster, Smithers. Smithers provides gadgets that are ingenious because they are identical to things Paul owned, ensuring absolute deniability. This is Smithers' specialty, making spy tech look utterly pedestrian.
First, the inhaler. It's fingerprint sensitive, capable of firing knockout gas with a single twist, or, when twisted twice clockwise, turning into a powerful hand grenade with a 5-second fuse.
Turning a common medical device into a lethal weapon.
Second, the iPod. It's a microwave technology eavesdropping device capable of listening in up to 50 meters away and also serves as a secure contact for the CIA.
How do you do that?
You just rotate the click wheel 3 times anti-clockwise. It's perfect because every teenager owns an iPod.
And finally, Stingo, a jungle-strength mosquito lotion. This is the masterstroke of espionage creativity. It doesn't repel insects. It attracts every single biting, stinging insect on the island. A perfect organic diversion.
Alex arrives in Flamingo Bay, 10 miles off Barbados. It's supposed to be paradise. A private island leased from the British government shaped like a fish covered in dense rainforest. But the security measures immediately betray the sinister reality.
The location for the Space Center is hidden behind an electric gate, watched by towers and guards in pale gray overalls carrying mini Uzi 19mm submachine guns. Razor wire is concealed in the water. This level of protection isn't for a resort, it's for a fortress.
Right, and Alex meets Magnus Payne, the head of security, an ugly man with ginger hair and deathly pale skin, and Professor Sing-Ju Chan, the flight director recruited from the Khrunichev Space Center. The launch of Gabriel 7 is imminent, 9:00 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
Alex attempts a moment of normalcy, kitesurfing with Paul. Paul uses the time to open up, confiding how disconnected he feels from his famous father. Sometimes I think I don't even know him myself.
The sources consistently present Paul as the isolated, unintended victim of his father's massive ambition.
But the luxury is short-lived. Payne is sharp. He has already done his homework and informs Drevin that Alex is an MI6 agent, confirming the chest injury was a bullet wound from an assignment.
and he rightly suspects the CIA used the passport swap to brief him. Drevin's paranoia is confirmed. The boy could be working with either of them, or both. Drevin orders Payne to kill Alex the very next day.
The next morning, Alex uses the iPod eavesdropper on Drevin and his PA, Tamara Knight. He catches the crucial detail. A boat is arriving at 11:00 p.m. that night at the western tip, away from Little Point, behind the launch site. This rendezvous is highly suspicious.
Drevin tries to make Alex's death look like an accident, proposing scuba diving to see the Mary Bell shipwreck. Alex descends with a guard named Kolo, who intentionally lets the hatch swing shut, trapping Alex in the second hold.
He's running out of air. The gauge shows 1750 psi left, plummeting towards the red zone at 500 psi. He has near minutes left.
The rescue comes from an unexpected quarter. Tamara Knight, Drevin's beautiful PA, appears underwater. She is the CIA agent Joe Byrne had mentioned.
She passes Alex the hidden inhaler grenade through a small window. Alex arms it, twisting the cylinder twice clockwise, and detonates it against the chain door, blowing his way into the next hole just as his air runs out.
It's a moment of critical timing and reveals the deep CIA infiltration of Drevin's organization.
Alex and Tamara, who reveals she's already wounded from an earlier confrontation with Drevin's men, plan to intercept the 11:00 p.m. boat. Alex uses Smithers Stingo mosquito repellent on the guards' uniforms in the changing cabin, focusing on Kolo and the new shift.
The diversion is wonderfully theatrical and perfectly suited to the environment. When the new shift returns, every biting, stinging insect on the island swarms them.
They are covered, forcing them to flee, and in their panic, they short-circuit a crucial monitor. The guards are uselessly covered in bites, and the path to the western tip is clear.
The 11:00 p.m. boat arrives during a massive tropical storm. Magnus Payne and his men meet four figures climbing down: combat jacket, silver tooth, spectacles, and steel watch, the thugs who kidnapped Alex and killed Connor.
The pieces are falling into place, confirming Alex's suspicion. The Force 3 kidnappers work directly for Drevin.
Drevin appears, bizarrely holding a brightly colored golfing umbrella against the tropical storm, a ridiculous display of expensive normalcy juxtaposed with high criminality.
He confirms Tamara is CIA and orders her locked up. He reveals his knowledge of Alex's entire espionage history, ending any pretense. Alex is brought to the hangar for the final confession.
In the hangar, Drevin confesses his motives to Alex in a chilling moment of narcissistic vulnerability. He insists he's telling him everything because he plans to kill him, meaning there will be no danger of you repeating what you hear.
This confession is the ultimate display of his arrogance and contempt for human life.
Drevin reveals his two existential problems. Problem 1, the CIA investigation. All 2,000 documents and recordings of his criminal empire are stored at the Pentagon.
So his solution is monumental. Destroy the Pentagon with a single well-aimed missile, killing the investigators and obliterating all evidence simultaneously.
Problem 2 is Ark Angel itself. The space hotel is a financial disaster, billions over budget, late, leaking, and falling apart. He is drowning in debt.
If the wretched thing would simply fall out of the sky, the massive insurance payout would free him from the project and solve his liquidity crisis.
His solution, combining his two problems, is breathtaking in its scale and criminality. Drevin is using the Gabriel 7 rocket, launching under the guise of delivering Ark Angel components as a delivery system for a kinetic bomb.
The plan is to send the 400-ton Ark Angel space station crashing down onto Washington, D.C., causing a shockwave that would destroy most of the city. The bomb is timed for 4:30 p.m.
This reveals the true genius and sociopathy of the entire operation. Drevin created Force 3 specifically to provide a credible ideological cover for this attack. The world would instantly assume eco-terrorists destroyed the symbol of multinational space expansion.
And the revelation of Kaspar is the final piece of the puzzle. Kaspar, the heavily tattooed fanatic, was actually Magnus Payne, Drevin's head of security, disguised with those painful and unpleasant tattoos.
He was a manufactured spectacle, a global bogeyman, hired to take the blame.
The kidnapping of Paul was also a calculated step in the ruse. If Paul had been successfully maimed, say losing a finger, no one would ever suspect Drevin had engineered the incident.
Drevin confirms that Combat Jacket's decision to start the fire was mere disobedience, but ultimately irrelevant to the larger plot.
And the fate of the captured thugs who arrived via the boat is revealed to be equally cynical. The hired Force 3 criminals, Combat Jacket, Silvertooth, Spectacles, Steel Watch, would stage a shootout with Drevin's remaining security forces.
And their bullet-ridden bodies will be on display as final proof that Force 3 was annihilated after executing the attack. Drevin would emerge as the ultimate victim and hero.
Alex, dressed quickly in a guard uniform, makes his escape toward the jetty, planning to use the kite surfing gear to reach Barbados. But Paul, having overheard the confession, confronts him, still believing Alex is the spy who disrupted his life.
Paul activates a hidden alarm button. Alex, in a moment of terrible necessity, has to knock him out to escape the island.
Alex successfully launches the kite by himself, utilizing sand to anchor one tip while he enters the water. He immediately faces enormous waves and high winds, covering 5 miles toward Barbados, pursued by Drevin's fast boats.
A Princess V-55 and 2 smaller speedboats. He uses the kite's maneuverability and speed, jumping high into the air and weaving, managing to force the 2 speedboats to crash into each other.
But the Princess V-55 catches up just as the wind dies. Just as Alex prepares for capture, the CIA Mark V Special Operations craft arrives, carrying Ed Shulsky and a dozen SEALs.
Alex returns to Little Point, where the situation erupts. Drevin appears, flying his Cessna seaplane to escape. Drevin sees Alex and fires at him.
And Paul, recovering and walking out of the house, takes the full impact of the bullets in the shoulder and arm.
Drevin, screaming in Russian, throws down his gun and takes off. In a final, desperate act of revenge, Drevin turns the plane back to fire at Alex and the agents below, only to crash instantly into the trees as he snags the canoes tied to the beach.
The megalomaniac dies a messy, undignified death.
But the crisis remains. Shulsky reveals the critical failure. They controlled the island and killed Drevin, but the rocket had launched. Shulsky admits his primary error. There was no easy way out.
There was no red button or self-destruct mechanism on the ground to blow up Gabriel 7. The bomb is still heading toward Ark Angel, and Washington, D.C. is less than 3 hours from destruction.
The atmosphere on the control center, now CIA command, is frantic. Shulsky, Tamara Knight, and Professor Sing-Ju Chan calculate the timeline. Gabriel 7 would dock with Ark Angel at 2:30 p.m., and the bomb would explode at 4:30 p.m.
To avert catastrophic destruction, someone had to reach Ark Angel, access the bomb in the observation module, and switch it off.
And the solution is terrifyingly specific. The only available vehicle is the Soyuz Fregat rocket, which was ready to launch. It was intended to carry Arthur, the orangutan decoy used in Drevin's fake weightlessness experiment.
The cold reality quickly sinks in. No adult would fit into the tiny re-entry module designed for a smaller payload.
Alex is rushed into the tiny capsule, wired up, and given the fastest briefing imaginable. He realizes the horrifying truth of Drevin's initial experiment lie. It wasn't about weightlessness for an ape. It was a cover for sending a human into space.
Alex uses his deductive skills immediately. He realizes that the launch vibrations would have set off the bomb if it had been armed on the ground. Therefore, Kaspar Magnus Payne must have gone up in Gabriel 7 himself to arm the device once in orbit.
So the Soyuz was intended to bring Kaspar, the manufactured scapegoat, back to Earth safely after the explosion. Alex is stepping into the shoes of the real terrorist.
Sources which were written with input from aerospace experts and Dr. Michael Foale, an astronaut who spent 374 days in space, convey the physical ordeal of the launch with brutal accuracy. The G-forces are immense.
The injection fails, and Alex is crushed by the thrust. His face was being pulled off, experiencing temporary loss of vision. The sound is a roar that pounded at him with invisible fists.
Nothing, the sources emphasize, could prepare him for the sheer violence of a rocket launch.
He arrives at Ark Angel, experiencing weightlessness, but is initially paralyzed, spinning helplessly. Here's another moment of applied knowledge saving his life.
He recalls a high school physics lesson on Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
He removes his shoes and throws them hard, using the recoil effect to propel himself toward a handrail, finally gaining control in zero gravity.
He navigates the modules, a confusing maze in the dark silence of space. He quickly comes face to face with Kaspar, who is floating nearby. This is the ultimate showdown, 300 miles above Earth, between the manufactured symbol of terrorism and the manipulated child spy.
Kaspar attacks with a saboteur knife. Alex, remembering Professor Singh's earlier seemingly mundane warning not to look directly into the sun, uses the shutter release button in the node. He floods the area with brilliant, blinding sunlight, giving him the necessary fraction of a second advantage.
Alex kicks Kaspar hard, sending him hurtling backward in the zero-gravity environment. The man who wore the planet on his skin meets a symbolic end.
The knife's handle hits the wall, driving the blade through the world map tattoo, specifically entering the city of Beijing, killing him instantly. A violent, definitive end for the ultimate fake terrorist.
Alex locates the torpedo-shaped bomb in the Gabriel 7 capsule. He sees the terrifying digital countdown, 27.07.05, just 27 minutes left until Washington, D.C. is wiped out.
Following the rapid-fire instructions from the CIA, he disables the device, successfully averting global disaster.
The return trip is equally terrifying. The Soyuz disengages and begins re-entry. The deceleration is violent, the heat is extreme. He endures crushing G-forces far greater than the launch.
He lands, safe but entirely alone, in the sea, 100 miles off the eastern coast of Australia, having successfully saved the Pentagon and the entirety of Washington, D.C.
Looking back at this colossal plot, we realize the sheer scope of Drevin's madness. He was a man so rich, so arrogant, that he utilized the world's most sophisticated technology, space travel, not to advance humanity, but to mask a massive financial insurance scam.
He created a fully operational, visible terror group, complete with a terrifying, tattooed fake leader willing to destroy a major U.S. city and severely wound his own son, all just to collect insurance money and avoid jail.
And as we've analyzed, the entire resolution hinges on the immediate practical application of knowledge, proving the author's point about the power of education.
Right. Alex's survival depended on obscure facts. Ian's funambulism lesson, his quick comprehension of magnetic resonance for the MRI escape, Newton's third law for propulsion in zero gravity, and even simple chemistry knowledge.
Avoiding water contact with cesium, the sources confirm the reality underpinning this fiction, highlighting the input from actual aerospace experts like Dr. Michael Foale, ensuring the science of the space journey felt grounded, even if the premise was insane.
We look at the final costs of this ambition. Drevin is dead. Kaspar is dead. The entire Force 3 operation is exposed and eliminated. Adam Wright was murdered by cesium.
And Paul Drevin was severely wounded by his own father, but he is expected to live, now heading to his mother in America, forever changed by his father's monstrous ambition. The geopolitical outcome is that catastrophic consequences were averted entirely by a 14-year-old child who, despite his unique skills, MI6 and the CIA viewed as their most valuable and ultimately disposable asset.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. Something for you, the learner, to consider as you digest the sheer complexity of this scheme.
The CIA, the most powerful intelligence agency in the world, went into this expecting a technological solution. They assumed there was a fail-safe, what they repeatedly called the red button, a simple electronic command to blow up the rocket from the ground.
But modern, overcomplicated schemes often lack simplicity.
The ultimate solution was analog. It required a highly skilled, unpredictable, and ultimately human asset, Alex, willing to risk everything in a tiny one-person capsule.
So we ask you, in a world of complex, multi-billion-pound schemes and endless information overload, how often is the most effective solution the one that requires the greatest, most unpredictable personal sacrifice, simply because technology has failed to account for human variables?
It's about that next time you assume an easy answer exists.